Hello and welcome to Have You Asked Your Dad, the podcast where we ask dads questions that dads normally don't get asked. Today we have a special guest. His name is Dr. Michael Mol. That's right, the top billing host, the doctor, and most importantly for our purposes, father, Dr. Michael Mol is on the podcast. And today we are asking him, which TV dad do you most relate to? The reason why we're asking him that is because we want to talk about the Fathers Matter film series. If you want to find out more about these 6 fantastic films that highlight different stories that fathers may experience, check out the show notes or wait for the end of the episode. So on the line from a secret hotel room somewhere in the world, we've got Dr. Michael Mol. Hello, doctor.
How are you doing, Terence? Secret hotel room, not that secret, but yes, somewhere in the world is right.
So we have you on the line not in your capacity as a doctor, but actually in your capacity as a father. And we have some very crucial questions for you. In fact, we have one incredibly crucial question for you, because today's question for this episode is, which TV dad do you most relate to?
Relate to is your question. Yes, relate. Okay, so the most like myself.
Yes, so not the one that you wished you were.
Okay.
So my answer to that would be very simple. I wish I was like Dr. Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Uncle Phil. Dr. Phil's a different guy.
No, sorry. Who's Dr. Phil? Uncle Phil.
I was going to say, completely different.
Completely different.
He's just not that into you. He's Dr. Phil,
He's not that important. But he always walked into the room. He had this gravitas. He was able to throw hooligans out of his house.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's very true.
He was incredibly successful. And even though he was grumpy, he always had like a soft spot.
He did.
For the kids in his home.
For sure.
He took in his wife's nephew and cared for him as his own. Like, what a man.
Okay. Yeah. So relatable, or you'd like to be like him?
So I would like to be like him.
Okay, cool.
So I would like to be like Uncle Phil.
Okay.
But I think I'm more like Phil Dunphy.
From
Modern
yes.
Family.
Oh, yes. Oh, gotta be. Yeah, look, I think for me, I also would have said I'm probably more like Phil Dunphy. Well, at least when I saw him on screen, I was like, he's a funny guy. Like, he looks like a real...
What a goof troop.
He's WTF? Like, why the face, right? I'll never forget that episode. But then the father that I think for myself that I would... Oh, the one that brought tears to my eyes watching him play Jack Pearson. Have you guys seen This Is Us at all?
You stole my guy, Sean. You stole my guy. That series was just phenomenal. So I'm not sure I can relate to Jack. I'd love to be able to relate to Jack on a number of fronts. In fact, I asked my wife, I said, who do you think I'm like? And she said, Jack Pearson, but that could just be Jackie being Jackie, trying to tell me she loves me that way. But just this guy was amazing. I remember watching that series and thinking, I want to be a better dad.
Right.
Jack Pearson, because you're right, Sean. I mean, there's days when my kids go, that's such a Phil Dunphy thing to say, Dad. The whole idea of, whoop, heard it as I said it. And you're like, oh, jeez, that is a Dunphy move. But Pearson was amazing,
But isn't Pearson, I mean, he spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show. I haven't watched much of it, but I do know from my wife watching it repeatedly. He dies in that show, doesn't he?
I mean, he does, but that's not the quality I want to necessarily...
But that's a great point, because yes, you're so right. Jack dies when his kids are teenagers, but the entire series keeps dialing back to the moments they had with their dad. So for me, it was this whole idea of you seize the moment, you grab the time you have with your kids, because when these guys, his kids are old, they're still thinking about what their dad said to them in those times. So even though he's gone and he's long gone, that's just such a huge impact that you have in your kid's life. So that was a fantastic series. And in fact, I watched it behind the scenes with the cast. And it's Milo Ventimiglia. I never know if I get his name right, but he was asked by the interview at the time, so everyone thinks you're such a great dad. Where do you get your inspiration from? And he takes this breath, and there's this long pause, and he goes, well, my dad's actually in the room today. There is my inspiration. It was just...
Wow.
Lump in throat, tears in eyes, all that sort of stuff. Oh, so amazing. So the dad we all want to be gets his inspiration from a real dad, and that was a special moment.
Yeah, can I just say I'm really glad that this is a podcast and not with video, because whoa.
It's fine. It's okay. It's
the eyes
I have a direct sunlight
are
in
leaking.
my eyes. That's the problem.
Creepers.
Onions. Who's cutting onions now?
Yes.
There is definitely, like you say, Michael, the fact that he is just so present in his kids' lives. At least that's what we're shown for the most part of the series. I haven't seen the last season. And as you quite rightly say, he's got such strong memories for his kids. He's created strong memories for his kids that they live their lives around what they remember doing with their dads. The question for me now is, how do I continue to create those moments in our lives that are just so busy and we're constantly being pulled in different directions? Let's not even mention the fact that he didn't have the internet to keep stealing his distraction. For us to be as present,
or podcasts, for instance,
or podcasts for that instance, for us to be that present feels like it's an impossibility. But is it like dad to dad? Can we be more present?
I think, yeah, sure, we can. And it's about stealing those moments, or stealing's a horrible word, grabbing those moments. To wait until we on a vacation somewhere, or until we're sitting down, we have, 90 minutes together, whatever the case is. No, you grab whatever moments you can around the dining room table. Absolutely. That's one thing you can control as a mom and a dad, is we eat together. I'm going to stamp my authority down on that. But it's the phone call during the day. It's the quick WhatsApp. It's the shoulder to shoulder on the way to school. It's all those moments that you really just look your kids in the eye, you eyeball them, and it's how you doing, how you really doing, and ask a question that's not just how was your day or what did you learn, or ask a question that gets to know them better. I think that's one thing that Jack, the character that Jack plays, really struck me was. He treated his kids differently. He knew his kids. I mean, each child has a unique DNA and unique fingerprints and unique personality, and he knew how to get the best out of all three different kids. And for me, that's also hugely inspiring because, three very different kids that require a very different approach to how I speak with them, how I engage with them, how I express love to them. My eldest just wants to do stuff. If we can go surfing together, that's his language of love. My daughter just loves affection and physical affection. My son would just want me to play PlayStation with him and watch me just beat this boss dad and take this guy down. They're so different. And you need to love them in the way they want to be loved.
I think that's quite a modern idea of fatherhood, because I was thinking about older versions or older TV dads, so from even the Uncle Phil's, for instance. But I was thinking about Red from that '70s show.
Yes.
And he's a very caring father, but he's super stoic and he's incredibly distant. And obviously, he's representing dads from the '70s.
Yes.
But that's kind of shown to be what the good style of fatherhood is. Like, you care for your family, you feed them, provide for them, but there's no emotional connection. There's no showing them vulnerability. There's no showing them how much you care for them on a day-to-day basis, like you're saying. So it is nice to see the This Is Us versions of fatherhood coming through. And I know we've slandered Phil Dunphy at the beginning of this, but he's also that kind of dad.
I mean, he is. He does. He's quite happy to shed a tear. He's quite happy to show his emotions and to rally behind his kids. I mean, does he not do all the dance moves? If you think TikTok was one thing, I think Phil has probably got his own TikTok account. He should have if he doesn't.
Yeah.
And all the dance moves.
And I suppose Phil is not afraid to embarrass himself. I was going to say in front of his kids. He kind of wears his heart on his sleeve. Says what he thinks, and you love him for that.
Yes.
And again, he's all for his kids, and for me, that was great. And also creating those memories. I mean, there was a particular episode where he walks across the yard on a tightrope, I think. Can't remember that. But, they were like, this our dad is mad, But at the end of the day, the family gets together and they cheer him walking across the yard. And they're like, he created this moment. And forever there will be this memory of us gathered together on the front lawn watching dad walk the tightrope. And what a cool dad. Weird, but cool. And by the way, I do think that translates into good father in terms of you are the keeper of memories. There's Jackie and I have often said, and I've had some amazing experiences in my lifetime in terms of travel, but they're just experiences because you don't share them with anyone, and sharing them with an audience is not quite the same. But when you go somewhere, when you do something, when you create a memory worth capturing on camera, those memories just get more and more valuable with time. And pre-COVID, we did a lot of getting away as a family. And during COVID, we went back and we watched those videos. And it's just as though, even though in lockdown and we can't go anywhere, we get transported to beyond our home to those memories that we have, and they just get more and more valuable. So if you can create a memory, do that. I often say to Jax, she says, why don't we just stay at home this weekend? I'm like, we can, but who's going to take photographs of our home? Let's go somewhere we want to take photographs, capture moments, because that's capturing memories.
Yeah, I hear every word you're saying, and I can't agree more. Like you're quite already saying with regards to Phil creating that moment outside where he is walking that tightrope, which seems absolutely ridiculous. Can we also just take a moment for the fact that the character or the person is comfortable in himself to say, actually, this is who I am, guys. I'm going to be silly. I'm going to make you laugh. I'm going to make you cry. I'm going to get in your face and under your skin because I love you. It's coming from a place of love and to be involved in every moment of your life is important to me as a dad. I'm not just going to run the numbers and make sure that there's food and make sure that there's a roof over your house, which, by the way, I do. And it's a hell of a lot of strain, but I see you for you, as you're pointing out with Jack as well. There's lots to learn from TV dads by the looks of things.
In fact, there's a scene where Phil Dunphy speaks to Jay, and I think he's sitting on the stairs at the front door, and he says, Jay, I can't be like you. I'm not successful. I haven't provided for the family like you have for yours. And Jay, in a moment of rare emotional connection, says, Phil, look at your family. You've got a house. You put 3 kids through college. You've cared for these. He says you're a successful dad, or you've made it. You know what I mean? There's nothing to be ashamed of. So I think that whole idea of just securing your family's financial future is good too. Being wise with what you have. You don't have to be wealthy, but what you have and the security you can bring, I think, is great too as a father.
So can I suggest a TV dad that many people don't think of as a TV dad?
You may.
Alfred from Batman.
What? Really? As a dad?
Because think about it, he took over the care for the child. That wasn't his own child, right?
Yes.
It was technically his boss's child.
Yes.
He cares for this child and loves his child throughout his teenage years. Even when he goes away, the child comes back. He looks after the child's house for the kid while the child's away. And when the child has an insane idea of becoming a superhero, he 100% backs the kid and ensures that he's the literal servant father.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I think that's good, Chance. I really do. And you know what I liked about Alfred is, Bruce Wayne does some really crazy things. He burns down the mansion at one point. He does stupid stuff. And Alfred always accepts him, always comes back, always sees the good in him, despite what happens around him. And I love that, this whole idea of, and he's got his back. There's this beautiful scene, and I often throw my kids under the bus with that. But, I think John Wayne just makes this horrendous statement, leaves this party. Everyone's like, what? Or where's he going now? And he just turns to Alfred and he says, Alfred, tell him that joke, and he leaves. And it's just like, you've got this. You've got my back. And so, I think that's a great comment. I think Alfred's an amazing, stand-in dad, if you like, or social father.
Good job, T.
So I think I've nailed it. So we people might be thinking, wait a second, you have Michael Mol on your podcast. There's literally a million things you could be talking to him about, but you're choosing TV dads. The reason why, if you're listening and you're like asking yourself that question, Michael is involved with an organization called Heartlines that's run a program called Fathers Matter. And they're starting to release a series of movies that's coming out over the next couple of weeks. Michael, could you tell us a little bit more about what those movies are about and what Fathers Matters is about?
Well, I think from my perspective, Terence, the whole idea around Fathers Matter is so key. And it's the message is you're irreplaceable, Dad. You really are. You can be replaced in any other role that you play, whatever business you're in, whatever role you're playing in life, you're replaceable. Sorry, that's the honest truth. But as a father, you're irreplaceable. Your kids need you. They need your presence. They need you to kind of affirm their potential. Every son, every daughter needs a father to look them in the eye and say, you have what it takes. The kids they get their identity from their dads. How they see themselves is such a huge aspect of success going to their future. And that comes from a father. That healthy self-image comes from a dad. And I think above all, kids need to know from their father that they are loved. In fact, If you ask me what successful fatherhood is in my life, it has to do with just letting my kids know that they are loved by their father on earth and loved by their father in heaven. And I think if you as a dad, it's easy to be a dad and become a dad. It's quite difficult, to actually fulfill that role. Just because you are a dad doesn't mean you're a good one in that sense. And so Fathers Matter just is turning the spotlight on the fact that you do play a role in your kid's life. And society pushes us out, and culturally often we're sidelined because of just where we find ourselves. This country that we're in has separated families, has pushed fathers out. And we need them to know that they really matter. You need to engage. You need to get back in the arena. You need to fight for your kids. And that's what Fathers Matters is all about. And that's what these movies are all about. I mean, 6 amazing, heart-wrenching, tear-jerking moments just to show you, Dad, you're needed in your kid's life. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter how you're struggling, your kids need you. And I think that's an unbelievable message. We're a generation, I'd say largely a generation that's fatherless. I mean, you know the stats in terms of how many kids live without fathers or living in single-parent households. We need to re-engage. We need to be there for our kids and change the trajectory of this generation.
Well, Michael and I, we both watched the first 2 movies that are being released, and it is hard not to get inspired and also let the tears flow during both of those. So the rest of them should be as good. I'm going to be talking about in the outro of the podcast. I'll give you all the details on where you can watch it and how, and of course I'll also put that into the show notes at the bottom. So if you're interested in watching movies that are going to make you cry in happy ways about fatherhood, read the show notes at the bottom.
Yeah, please do, because I haven't seen either, and I'm now very intrigued about seeing the stuff that you've seen. I'm already sitting here thinking about the impact that I have on my own child, just listening to you, Michael. I'm not sure that I would make it through. Can I pause the movies, maybe? I'm just joking, because I'm not sure that I'll be able to make it through an entire movie without shedding tears. These sound like really important stories that need to be heard, so that we can remind dads of the impact, as you quite rightly have said, that they have on their children and their families. So I'm very pleased to hear that these movies exist, and I, for one, can't wait to see them.
Yeah, we've made one convert, Michael. That's a good step forward.
And that's one at a time, man. That's kind of what it takes. So I think the message that these movies and these mini series are putting out there is really asking dads or encouraging dads to get engaged. I think that's just this, was it Top Gun? I mean, since we're talking movies, I think it was the original Top Gun where kind of Maverick disengages, and there's this whole scene where he's like, engage, Maverick, engage. He's bugged out, he's gone, and suddenly the music changes and the bass comes in and the kind of, thematic theme just drives through and you hear this, he's back in. He's engaged. And if anything, I want to encourage you as a dad, wherever you are, engage. Get back in the game. Your kids need you.
Michael Mol, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of Have You Asked Your Dad? It's despite the fact we don't even know where you are, you still managed to inspire us. And I'll be telling you more about those movies and how you can get involved with Fathers Matter a little bit later on.
He's a TV dad that inspires me, Michael Mol.
That's true. He is a word. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. You are a TV dad.
Yeah, he doesn't play a character of a dad on TV, but he is on TV.
And he's a dad.
And he is a dad. So, I mean, there we go.
Forget about Alfred. You're our TV dad who inspires us.
My job here is done, gentlemen. Thank you so much. It's great chatting to you guys, and well done with the podcast.
I am engaged. I am engaged. I am engaged.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Have You Asked Your Dad? If you want to catch the Fathers Matter film series that Dr. Michael Mol was talking about, you can watch them on SABC2 at 8:30 p.m. every Saturday from the 17th of September. There are 6 films that you can watch. To find out more, you can click the link in the show notes. And hey, if you have a question that you think Dad should be asked, please send it via email to hyaydpod@gmail.com. That's hyaydpod@gmail.com. Or catch us on Instagram. Search for Have You Asked Your Dad?